I'm Joel Edelstein. There's a startup company, Mile High Cab, which 2 years ago in 2008 applied for authorization to operate taxis in the metro area. They claim that they'll offer lower fares while eliminating surcharges for extra passengers or bags and providing better service to the suburbs. They met the two criteria established by the PUC, the Public Utilities Commission: competence to operate a taxi company and financial stability. But last week, Administrative Law Judge Paul Gomez handed down his recommendation to the PUC that the application be denied. Judge Gomez stated that there were more than enough cabs in the metro area already, and that authorizing more would damage current operating companies and their passengers. With me in the studio, Hassan is a driver who would work at Mile High Cab and would be an owner of Mile High Cab because it is a cooperative, and the attorney representing Mile High Cab, Tom Russell. Tom is at the University of Denver Law School. He came there from the University of Texas, and he's also been a visiting law professor at the University of California, Hastings College of Law, and UC Berkeley's Bolt School, and been a lecturer at Stanford. Very distinguished career he's had. His specialty is the relationship between law and the place we call the real world. He studies legal history, has a special interest in race and law. There's a lot more in his bio that we don't have time for. But there are 4 companies operating in the metro area. Metro just got busted for having drivers on the road illegally, driving more than 80 hours in 8 consecutive days. 54 times that happened. And so if there are all those cabs out there, why is it that cab drivers had to work illegal hours? The judge in this case has rejected the $148,000 plea bargain from Metro Cab and ordered a full hearing. Well, Hassan, Tom, were you surprised at Judge Gomez's ruling on the application of Mile High Cab?
Yes. It really surprised us when we hear that the application has been downgraded.
Yeah, Joel, yes. We were certainly surprised by it. I mean, the conclusion that we were fit to operate, coupled with the conclusion that more competition would hurt the public interest, is a conclusion that we think is not supported by either the evidence or the law.
And what was the basis for Judge Gomez's ruling? I mean, you know, it's kind of like it's such a crucial ruling. You know, it reminds me in some ways of being a referee in a game of soccer when the team is heading right for the goal and the referee calls offsides. I mean, it's a game changer right there. And everybody can see what's happening on the field. What was the evidence in the opinion of Judge Gomez for this striking down of the application?
Well, Joel, we have his opinion up at milehighcab.com, and people can take a look at it there. The central point of his opinion is something called destructive competition. The idea is that if Mile High Cab were to come into the market with this cooperative, 150 more drivers in a market that already has 1,200, that would not only damage the existing companies, but somehow make them go away and create a desert of taxi service. We, again, in the exceptions that I filed to that, we simply don't think that there's support either from their witnesses, from the experts that they brought in, or, as you noted, based on the fact that they're sort of creating conditions of oversupply of drivers by not regulating the hours that their own drivers are on the road. We just don't think there's support for this conclusion.
So we would expect that the Yellow Cab, which is one of the 4 companies currently operating, has now applied to have an additional 150 drivers. So that's going to be struck down because there are too many drivers, right?
That's true. And We think of that if there is enough taxi already in the city or around the county, and I don't know why it was really necessary to apply for 150 more taxis to be on a road when saying that it is already the excess taxi around.
Now, some of the companies operating now have expressed their view on the Mile High application, and Metro was one of those, right?
Metro Taxi is actually the leading intervener against our application. Yellow Cab did not make the argument that it would hurt the public interest. Metro Taxi was the one that made that argument, and they did tend to focus on the number of taxis. Mile High Cab, by contrast, focuses on the need for competition between different companies, and that really is the central dynamic in this taxi market.
And what makes Mile High Cab different from the four that are already in the market?
Low fare, availability, professionalism, a lot of stuff I can count.
As Hassan says, a lower fare would be 25 cents cheaper per mile to go with Mile High Cab compared with Yellow or Metro. Mile High Cab would not charge for extra passengers nor for extra bags, and the drivers, all professional drivers who are either driving right now or who have driven, are committed to a level of professionalism and the goal to bring a kind of more of a taxi culture and bring the level of service up in the 5-county area in which we've applied: Adams, Arapahoe, Denver, Douglas, and Jefferson counties.
Hassan, what is the working life of a taxi driver now in the metro area?
Right now, most of the drivers, they drive a long hour because they have to cover a weekly expense of over $700 or $800 they have to pay.
Now, what is that weekly expense?
The weekly expense is what they have to pay for the taxi in order to be on a road. And so most of the drivers, they don't have a quality of life. They don't have time to spend with their family because they have to be away, be on a road, and just to cover the expenses they have.
So they have to, each driver has to pay the company that they drive for $700 or $800 a week for the privilege of operating that cab.
Yes, sir.
And it takes a lot of hours to generate the revenue to cover that overhead.
Absolutely. So a driver have to drive over 12 hours a day in order to cover that. So you come with the maths if you just figure out how much hour it costs for one driver to just accomplish the amount of the money he or she need to be paid for the company.
Well, how can Mile High, which is, if it's approved, was going to be competing with these other companies, how can Mile High do it differently so that it is a lower fare, but the drivers don't have to drive so much?
The Mile High, just give the opportunity for any driver to just pay only $250 a month or less. So that's where they can be less time on the road and they spend a quality of time for themselves as well as with their family, or going in any kind of a religion aspect or a schooling system. This is all kind of stuff that Mile High is going to give to the driver who is going to be part of this company.
Yes, Tom.
Joel, if I could just offer Hassan misspoke. $250 a week is what Mile High anticipates. I have in front of me a payoff sheet from a Yellow driver who recently paid $940 to the company for a week's lease.
For a week, not a month, a week.
For a week's lease, their weekly lease charges. And so Mile High Cab expects to pay about $250. Right now, the excellent drivers at Union Taxi are paying under $200 a week in the workers' co-op that they formed a little more than a year ago.
And where does that operate?
Union Taxi, they're the orange cabs that you see operating in the metro area right now.
And they're one of the four that are authorized?
They're one of the four. They're the newest of the companies, and we're trying to slide in right behind them.
So